Hello Soviets fans and welcome to Common Affairs Gamecast. I'll be your host, aSIISilentRain, for this game on Angoville between two clanmates, aSIISilentRain and aSIIDemolitionJeep of Clan All-Stars, albeit not a custom game. It is an actual automates game, so they are playing for all the money, and you could replace money with those precious ladder points. Both of these players have staggeringly high win-to-loss ratios, and they are, as it seems, well versed into the workings of the game, so I expect nothing less of a pretty interesting matchup. So, with that being said, let's jump right into it. We're paused at the 5-second mark, and we will be unpausing in 3, 2, 1, go. 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So the 10 first seconds of the game having passed, nothing seems out of the ordinary, at least up to now. The American player sets up his barracks at the forward location, and so does his opponent, setting down his Wehrmacht quarters on an equally forward position. The usual stuff at the beginning to maximize the effectiveness of those units as soon as they hit the field. Let's see, however, how they will be developing their early game from this point onwards. American player not really being interested in either side of the map, actually having split his engineers, one to the north and one to the west, and the Wehrmacht player plays in a similar fashion with his two pioneers. No more engineers coming out for the American player. We had seen a resurgence, and we are actually in the middle of a resurgence as far as the usage of engineers goes, but aSIISilentRain here will stay true to the two engineers and going directly for a rifle squad. While on the other hand, our Wehrmacht player has opened with two pioneers and an MG that he actually utilizes in order to cap the strategic sector outside of his base, which is a rather interesting move. We kind of have a feeling that that MG won't be pressed or handed down rather by American infantry any moment in the early as early in the game as is this stage. And of course now it is of course complemented by that bike. So there you go, bike MG, pretty standard. Hey there as well. Those engineers will be driven off by the motorcycle or the bike. However, the second rifleman squad is on the field and makes its move towards the west portion of the map, so that bike will take some fire. The MG of course will be quick to support the bike should the need arise. Now, no major engagement between those two armies, as far as I can see. They're capping around happily, I would say, or rather add. Third rifleman squad coming out for the American player, and the third squad out for the Wehrmacht player is a Volks squad, a Volks Grenadier squad. Minor harassment by the Wehrmacht player on the high fuel point of the American player in this portion of the map will be quickly met with some engineers that are going to try to fend off those pioneers. Wehrmacht player must probably respond rather quickly, and he does not seem to be doing so. He will retreat, however, in the nick of time. However, will the American player reposition his riflemen and try to gun down this retreating pioneer squad? This seems to be the case. Let's see how lucky he is going to be. And he will be pretty damn lucky, since he manages to kill that squad. That's an early loss for our Wehrmacht player, but nothing that should concern us or him. It takes away, I would rather say, some of his tempo, and conversely gives it to the American player, but apart from that, nothing too exciting here. More MGs for our Wehrmacht player, second one on the field, having set up jets just outside of his base. Will try to take on those advancing riflemen, try to prevent any more harassment by the American player to the resource of the Wehrmacht player. Use of wire, I would say pretty standard here, trying to secure the strategic sector to the south of his base, of the Wehrmacht player's base, which is a point of contention, I would say, in these positions when you spawn north as the Wehrmacht player. And as it seems now, the American player is setting up for a flank. He has his 4 rifleman squads on the field. He has his engineers upgraded with flamers. One of the squads of riflemen is actually retreating though, but the fact still remains that he can proceed to a flank with those 4 squads, the 3 riflemen and the engineers, and that is exactly what he's attempting to do. However, engineers and riflemen seem to be clumped up in the west, and the fire of the MG42 will suppress the riflemen. MG42 once again that has tries to set up actually just to the south of the strategic sector with the help of a bike. The bike actually delayed the riflemen as much as it was actually needed for the MG to open fire. However, there are riflemen there. They were in green cover, now they are not anymore. Flank in the west is being driven off by those folks, and the American player seems to be not getting as much as he would like out of this flank. Bar kicking, however, MG goes down, gets decrewed by those riflemen, and with the added firepower of the BARs, that rifleman will get out of suppression. There's another MG42 that has been decrewed in the west, so both the MG42s of the Wehrmacht player are now up for the taking by the American player. Let's see if he will be opting to do so. No, he does not seem to be doing so. For the fatherland is being used. The mine gets detonated nearby the eastmost MG42 weapon, and those riflemen will be returning back home to be reinforced, and that MG42 will be stolen by the American player. One unit goes down, most probably a pioneer squad of the Wehrmacht player. Folks still around, however. There is a bunker that has not been upgraded to a med bunker, so no losses, no infantry losses of the Wehrmacht player will be able to come back on the field and kind of replenish that the loss of manpower. Heavy loss on the American player as well. However, I would say that in this engagement he came out on top. The problem and the issue for him is how is he going to capitalize on that early win. We are currently, of course, at the 7 minutes, 7 seconds, 8 seconds, 9 seconds and 10 seconds of the game, and the Wehrmacht player gets the opportunity to harass the American player a bit by cutting him off from the east portion of the map. However, those flamethrower equipped engineers will, with the help of the BAR riflemen, will prove too much for the Volk Grenadiers to handle, and they will be retreating. Bunker being repaired, bunker of the Wehrmacht player. Wehrmacht player still trying to hold as much territory as he can with those meager forces that he has. A single recruit MG42, 2 Volk squads and 2 pioneers is not that many units in order to fend off 4 rifleman squads, a stolen MG42 and 2 engineers equipped with flamethrowers. However, with the help of some mines and intelligent use of wire, may have been the case. However, wire is scarce, mines are not really anywhere to be found, primarily because munitions have been spent by the Wehrmacht player on using that for the fatherland in the previous engagements, so that he could withstand the American push. Once again, American player kind of moves on and tries to flank the position of the Wehrmacht player. MG42 of the Wehrmacht player will need to retreat because it was flanked. Med bunker, however, is up for our Wehrmacht player, and those 2 squads of Volksgrenadier will be taking a rather defensive position. American player focuses down the medics, at least one of the medics of the med bunker, thereby reducing, of course, its effectiveness. and he is actually taking up behind in his base. He is taking up to a motor pool after he's built his supply yard, so everything goes well for him up to now. The answer, of course, by the Wehrmacht player, and the reason why we haven't been seeing any other tier 1 or tier 2 units up to now, is that he was actually trying to get his Sturmarmory up, and he has managed to do so, although I'm not so certain whether he will be able to field as many units as he would like out of the Sturmarmory in order to take on those riflemen. There's surely gonna be a Puma armor car coming on the field in order to deal with the BARs, and most possibly to actually deal with the stolen MG42 and give the Wehrmacht units some room to expand. However, as I said, the motor pool is up by the American player, and should he opt to go for an AT gun or an M8, both can be used against the Puma. M8, of course, giving them more mobility than the AT gun, giving opportunities for harassment and securing American held territory. AT gun, of course, being much more deadly against the Wehrmacht vehicles, and thereby equally important as well. Let's see what the choice will be. He is actually getting an M8 out, and the Puma has hit the field. Will be taking on those riflemen and or the MG42, deciding on what he will be targeting down. Seems that it was the rifleman that immediately retreated, and so does the MG42. American player really does not has the luxury to retreat from those areas, since he does have a very, very good map control, and he did have that map control after his first flank, so the resources are flowing in. It's of course evident in the upgrades of his infantry, in the fact that he already has his motor pool and an M8 up, and the question is how well he will be using the M8 and his infantry. Up to now we won't be able to see anything except for the M8 engaging the Puma. It will take a while, of course, for the Puma to go down to the M8, and I'm pretty sure that the American player won't be trying to hunt down the Puma in Wehrmacht territory, being afraid, of course, of mines, of Panzerfaust, or whatever else the Wehrmacht player will have in his arsenal in order to deal with an M8. I'm pretty sure as well, however, that American player pretty much knows that Wehrmacht player won't be having a tier 2 up at the moment, so he needn't worry about a pack being on the field. However, he still should be cautious for mines, because you never know when you're gonna hit a mine, and it's a tough thing to trying to repair an M8 with a damaged engine in enemy territory. Puma this time trying to hold down some map control for the Wehrmacht player. Continuous harassment actually has crippled the resource income of the Wehrmacht player, and the American player has all the map at his disposal, is fielding even more units at the moment, even got an AT gun out as well, so the combination of an M8 as well as an AT gun will be really, really deadly against the Puma, or even a Stug, should the Stug hit the field. And therefore the Wehrmacht player responds to the American expansion, I would say, with a back tech to tier 2. You will most probably getting out a pack to deal with the M8 threat. Since I do not see him going for some grenadiers, given the fact that he has no infantry veterancy, and BARs are really good against those the Wehrmacht infantry without upgrades, that is. Medbanker really close to going down to the AT gun. However, two pioneers get there. Seems that they will be getting there in time. However, advancing flamethrower wielding engineers will be helping to bring down this bunker. This bunker kind of crucial to the way the the Wehrmacht player has set up his position, and actually goes down, which is a rather big hit for him. There are no more manpower losses to be recuperated by the med bunker. He will have to do to make ends meet with the infantry squads that he has on the field at the moment. And of course, given the number advantage as far as the forces are concerned of the American player, I think that the Wehrmacht player is doing the correct thing, trying not to engage, but rather trying to take back as much of the map as he can in order to have get some resources, get some more resources, and trying to build up a force. The issue here is, will the American player capitalize on his progress so far in order to seal this game and take the win, or will he let the Wehrmacht player gain such an advantage out of nowhere? One step in the right direction for the Wehrmacht player is him destroying the M8 armor car after it hitting a mine. So that was pretty good for him. Now there's a single AT gun out for the American player that will be able to deal with the Puma. Of course, there's always the possibility that the riflemen have some upgrades, but given the level of these players, I wouldn't expect the Puma to get in range and get a sticky. So American player will either have to lure the Puma into the AT gun or find some other way to deal with it, such as laying mines, as he did with his engineers near the northeast victory point. Victory point situation, we should mention it here, it's 491 for the American player, 220 for the Wehrmacht player, so there is a significant victory point advantage for the American player. So despite of him having all the map, he also has an extra kind of pressure put on the Wehrmacht player that the last one will have to find a way to deal with. Kind of a mass retreat of the American player from the west portion of the map. He had climbed up two rifleman squads that actually got caught in the arc of fire of an Wehrmacht MG42 and had to retreat. And that of course gives the opportunity for the Wehrmacht player to advance once again in the west portion of the map and try to take back as much of the map as he can. He meets, of course, mines in the process of doing so. However, he seems to be advancing nonetheless. There is a sniper out for the Wehrmacht player. Sniper not only will try to take on those riflemen and reduce the squad numbers and make the life easier for the Volks or the MG42, but he will be able to deal with the AT guns as well. There are two AT guns out by the American player, and sniper shots can really be very, very effective against those AT guns. Decrewing them, of course, but still allowing for the armored vehicles of the Wehrmacht player to advance when they would otherwise wouldn't be able to do so. I think I mangled my words there, but it is to be expected. So once again, a flank in the works. American player tries to flank the MG as well as the sniper. The sniper will be retreating, however. For the fatherland is once again popped on the retreating squad so that they would survive the flank of the riflemen. There's a second Puma on the field right now that seem to be demolishing those rifleman squads. Artillery coming down the position of the second bent bagger of the Wehrmacht player. However, Puma moves out of the way, Pack gun moves out of the way, False Grenadiers move out of that way. MG42 is very far away, and the Met Banger takes just a couple of hits, still at 90% health. I would say pretty good engagement for the Wehrmacht player. The Wehrmacht player who slowly seems to find his way back into the game. He has secured at least one victory point, thereby reducing the rate at which he loses victory points. He does have that Puma there in the east that has forced the American player to focus his attention in the west portion of the map. And if he continues doing so and even tries to take back some of the resource sectors in the east portion of the map, that would greatly enhance his chances of stabilizing as well as even making it as far as getting the win in this game. Counter-sniper out, I would rather say, by the American player, and we will be having some sniper wars in the makings as well. 280 guns, of course, formidable for any armored advance by the Wehrmacht player in the west portion of the map. Infantry of the Wehrmacht player in a kind of the same fate, having to deal with BAR snipers and flamethrowers. However, American player has not revealed his sniper yet, so or has he? Actually, he has. So interesting. it will be an interesting thing to see how these snipers were going to play out. Up to the moment, they seem to be taking shots and retreating, not wanting to go one for the other. However, the Nebelwerfer that is on the field may change things a little bit, and those two snipers of the American player may find life getting much harder in the coming minutes because of that area effect fire of the Nebelwerfer. Puma trying to gun down some retreating riflemen. Puma with veterans level 1 and veterans level 1 for the Wehrmacht vehicles, affecting of course the packs as well. Wehrmacht counter sniper goes down to the Americans. He revealed himself previously trying to take a shot, thereby dies to the second American sniper, which will leave the field open for the American infantry to take on their Wehrmacht counterparts. First, the Grenadier squad seems to be popping out of the med bunker, and the Wehrmacht player is once again cornered in the west portion of the map. However, this time his job of taking back the map seems to be rather easier, since there's a Puma there and there's only one remaining AT gun and no other effective AT against those two Pumas. So we see once again the field shifting hands, the west going into the Wehrmacht player's hands, the east going back into the Wehrmacht player's hands. American player, having chosen the infantry company, will have to rely primarily on that howitzer that he built in order to dislodge, I would say, the Wehrmacht forces. He probably took that company, chose that company. Wow, that was a massive hit near the med bunker, destroying one of the infantry squads of the Wehrmacht player and forcing two more to retreat. As I was about to say that howitzer won't be as effective against the Pumas as the American player would like, it still is gonna be effective against the Wehrmacht infantry. And there is always the off-map combat group that can be called in later into the game, so as to complement the forces of the American player. But you always have to be wary of what the Wehrmacht player is gonna be getting, and most importantly that very, very powerful veterancy. There is of course the choice of the defensive doctrine by the Wehrmacht player, so that means no Tiger tanks or no King Tigers will be on the field. And the American player seems to be responding to this advancement of the Wehrmacht player and to the unit composition of the Wehrmacht player by getting a tank depot of his own. There's a single pack on the field, but it surely can be brought down rather easily, either with a flank, either with some artillery, either with the American snipers that are still two in number, against one of the Wehrmacht player that he actually rebuilt a little bit earlier. The rifleman squad still on the field, trying to harass the victory points this time. There is one stolen MG42 covering that strategic sector to the north of the American player's base. It's always nice to see that. Howitzer firing once again towards the position of the med bunker. Get some hits, but that bunker will be getting repaired as soon as the shots stop. Wow, nice mine there by our American player, hitting two Pumas and destroying the engines on both of them. However, no form of AT nearby to finish them off, and so at the 23-minute, 32, 33, 34, 35-second mark, those Pumas will leave another day. Rifleman retreating once again, forward scout by a motorcycle, actually giving the American snipers a run for their money. given the fact that there is a Wehrmacht sniper on the field as well that has been shown to the American players, and he has one infantry kill. And the map control has massively shifted in favor of the Wehrmacht player. American player seems not to be finding any way that he can actually retake back control of this game, the Pumas being the major factor that stops every attempt of the American player to harass the Wehrmacht player. However, now there is a Sherman tank on the field, an M4 Sherman, and definitely those Pumas will meet their match, provided of course that the M4 Sherman goes that way. Well, at least the bike is down, the motorcycle rather, so that would give the American snipers a little bit more of a room to breathe in the west portion of the map. And the response of the Wehrmacht player to the M4 Sherman seems to be a Stug. Stug, of course, coming out of the Sturm Armory. Wehrmacht player really seems not to have any intentions to take up any more. And I wouldn't blame him for that. Tier 3 pretty viable in this stage of the game. Stug's pretty strong. Puma's complementing them well, and what is needed now is some more veterancy for the Wehrmacht player and no big mistakes. He also needs to stabilize the victory point situation, and if all those things come together, he will be able to give the American player a hard time. American player who, I will use the expression, is a stack at this moment with the infantry company, and I'm not sure if it is the best company to have in this situation. American MG team moving to the west, trying to cover the victory point. Stuk, not being microed, will get a sticky, and therefore a damaged engine as well. American Sherman is being repaired. He took some hits previously by the Stug, as well as the pack, as it seems. Harassment by the American player on the Wehrmacht player's strategic sector cut off, and an equal harassment by the pioneers on the American player's strategic sector. So the map is practically cut off for either of those players. Pumas once again making an appearance, gunning down, or trying to gun down an engineer squad. Pretty chaotic moves by either player in these stages. There's always the attempt of the American player to go for those victory points. It's always a tempting goal to try to drain your opponent of the victory points and end the game. However, the question is, how much are you going to be losing in attempting to do so?
Enemy unit down.
Seems up to now nothing, since the Wehrmacht player, the American player actually managed to kill one of the Pumas and retreat with his Sherman rather safely. Will these foes be using a Faust? Yes, they will be using a Faust. However, no damaged engine on that Sherman, and it will be able to retreat back into the safety of the American player's base and get repaired. Howitzer, of course, at veterans level 2 with 13 infantry kills, doing a pretty good job, at least stopping the, or holding back the Wehrmacht player from getting a much greater infantry force. Defensive artillery coming down on the Wehrmacht controlled high field point in the east, making those riflemen retreat. However, nearby a squad of riflemen once again tries to go for the victory point. Most probably the Puma will be getting there in order to respond to that threat. Howitzer firing once again, killing pioneers. Maybe this time we'll even kill a pack or get the bunker down to like 50 or 40% health. It actually killed the pack, not the weapon, the crew, but it's still a good thing for him. And as I said before, rifleman getting gunned down by that Puma. So much manpower going there just for a couple of victory points, but you will be winning the war by draining them very, very slowly, and that is what the American player seems to be doing. From his actions up to now, I would say that he does not seem as confident as getting this game and trying to fight out the late game, as you would call it, against the Wehrmacht. And I don't blame him for that. We all know how things can turn out for the Wehrmacht player in case that veteran starts to kick in. Wehrmacht sniper not being able to kill the American snipers, and we even have a squad of Rangers on the field that will be helping, I guess, with the Pumas and the Stugs. They're firing up. The Sherman is still at the back. The Shermans that actually have their barrel upgrade, being able, of course, to penetrate and do a little bit more damage against tanks, but decreasing their anti-infantry efficiency. But in this case, and with no significant infantry presence on the field by the Wehrmacht player, that choice is actually pretty good. Sniper. No, Sherman in danger of going down. Once again, American player trying to kill off that Stug, but frontal armor hits did not really do as much. There's even artillery coming down in the position of the Stug. However, what it did manage to kill with the help of some snipers, the full squad, the Stug, unfortunately for the American player, is still alive, and it is now joined by another Stug. Battle of the repairs here. Two engineers repairing a single Sherman against a Stug with no repairs. It seems to be that the Sherman might survive, and yes, it will. The American sniper still there, draining away the Wehrmacht player's manpower, and the Wehrmacht player still unable to counter-snipe either of those snipers. The only thing that he is attempting to do is scare them off by keeping his sniper there. We do have some Nebelwerfer fire on the position of the snipers in the rifleman squad. I would say it was more of a let's use it because we have the cooldown rather than anything else by the Wehrmacht player. And he may even hit the repairing engineers, you never know. Nebelwerfer crew and weapon destroyed by the American Howitzer. American Howitzer now at veterans level 3 with 26 infantry kills and 2 light vehicle skills. Pretty good, I would say, pretty good up to now. The Howitzer has helped the American player, but it is not the deciding factor in the game, because as we have seen up to now, the Wehrmacht player has focused more on vehicles rather than infantry, and therefore the Howitzer, as the time goes by, will be even less and less effective. Still good to have, but not the best. American Sherman taking hits from the pack. There are even 2 Stugs nearby. They are suppressive fire from the MG42, so those riflemen won't be able to get near the Stugs anytime soon to throw a sticky. There are some Rangers nearby, but it's always difficult to penetrate the frontal armor. Some skirmishes between Grenadiers and BAR riflemen in the east will go in favor of the riflemen. However, there's always a Puma there to meet them as they make their way towards the victory point. And once again, I kind of feel from these last moments of the game that the American player has focused really so much on trying to drain the Wehrmacht player of his VPs that he is losing the big picture, and the big picture is that he is losing so much manpower and tempo in his attempt to do so, that in the end he will be, in my opinion, overwhelmed by the position, not only the position but also the forces and the veterancy that he will be, that the Wehrmacht player will be able to attain.
Enemy unit down.
Currently being at the 33-minute 050678 second. It may be rather too early to call it, but I would say that things are not really looking that good. There are the Stugs there. The effectiveness of the American snipers has diminished since there are even less squads of infantry on the field for our Wehrmacht player. There was even a counter snipe by the Wehrmacht player on one of the American snipers. And the Wehrmacht player is even capitalizing on his ability to fend off the American infantry by capping the east portion of the map. So his tactics seem to be working out for the moment being, having his Stugs in the west with support from MG42s in order to stop the American infantry, and just having a single Puma in the east to deal with any harassment on the victory point there. Now there is a shift of attention by the American player in this portion of the map, sending his M4 Sherman there. There's also artillery being called down on the position of the of some capping squads near the west portion of the map. However, Wehrmacht sniper still alive with 6 kills. Pretty good, I would say. Puma has been driven off from the east, so the American player once again will be taking control of that area, or at least the victory point. And actually, in my opinion, that would be a good plan for him to just try to focus on the east, since his attempts up so far have been futile in trying to get the west. Terrain not helping as well, the hedges not really helping as well. Possible mines as well as the positioning of his attacks. I would think the road there, the kind of vectors of approach by that a Wehrmacht player would have to go through in order to get to this portion of the map are actually much more suitable for the American player to advance there. And should he stay there, he may be even turning the game once again in his favor and just capitalize on that victory point lead that he has. It's I think it's one of the things that he can really hope for in this game. Puma may go down to the Sherman, but it will narrowly escape. That Sherman is playing with fire there, trying to take on a Stug. No target fire there by the Sherman will give the opportunity to the Puma to go back into its base, and the Stug may even finish off the Sherman. Riflemen are nearby, maybe a stick here will be helpful. Microing the Sherman will be of utmost importance here, and since it is the only Sherman, M4 Sherman that the American player has on the field, if you take out of the equation the M10, that you can actually take out of the equation, because it actually did go down to the Stugs. I once again see 2 snipes out for the American player, and I kind of doubt how helpful they will be. They will be able to deal with the MG42s, however there's still the Wehrmacht sniper on the field. There's not so much infantry on the field by the Wehrmacht sniper player, and I really think that investment, that manpower investment in snipers, was a little bit too much. Wehrmacht sniper missing, of course, the counter sniper there will be handed down by some riflemen, and so will the MG42 veterans level 2 for the Wehrmacht tanks in play at the moment, and making them even more sturdier against their American counterparts. Off-map combat group has been unlocked, but the American player does not have the pop cap to actually use it, so therefore he needs a little bit more of a map control to actually do so. But you know, it is always kind of a lucky draw to get units that will be actually helpful to you, and not units that would be kind of useless. Sherman now helping fend off some advancing grenadiers in the east, while the American player continues to fire his howitzer. Howitzer now 28 infantry kills and the same 2 light vehicle kills. 1 more Stug on the field, increasing the count of the Wehrmacht Stugs to 4. And if you add to that the 2 Pumas, you have 6 robust and devastating American Wehrmacht pieces of armor to deal with, and you should do so with a meager armor force of your own of a single Sherman and an 80 infantry consisting of a single 80 gun and a squad, actually 2 80 guns and a squad of Rangers, which is really not that much. Rifleman going down in the west, another hit to the American player's infantry force. An off-map combat group is being used, replenishes one rifleman squad, brings in an M10, an 80 gun, effectively increasing the count of American 80 guns to 3, and a mortar that I doubt whether it will be useful or not. Maybe it's the unit that turned the game around. You never know. Maybe it will be able to bring down the MG42s, the PACs and whatever else you can imagine and destroy the Wehrmacht infantry. However, this does not seem to be the case. M10 has hit a mine in the west. There are 2 Stugs there that will be able to survive for the moment being. There is rocket barrage coming down on the position of the American force, causing... There's even a howitzer barrage coming down the position of the Stugs, so the players there trade an M10 for a Stug. However, there are more Stugs coming in from the flank. The American 18 guns were not so quick to reposition, and they may even go down. Yes, they will. At least one is being decrewed. The second one is in dire condition of being decrewed as well, but not before it kills a Stug of its own, gets veterans level 2 in the process, and loses it afterwards since it was decrewed. M4 Sherman still alive with a sliver of health. American Howitzer still alive with a lot of kills, having helped the American player up to now do as much as he could. Not many infantry forces for the Wehrmacht player, however, he does have a lot of munitions. Another rocket barrage coming down in the position of an American 80 gun destroys the gun itself, forces a retreat. There are still 2 uncrewed American 80 guns on the field, but the American forces, the American infantry forces are meager to say the least. They are being reinforced back into the base. Those 2 guns will be targeted down by the Stugs and will be destroyed, and that is a lot of time that has to go into rebuilding them. And without an 80 guns at this moment in the game, with a single M4 Sherman to deal with those Stugs, you really don't have that many options. You can always try to go for the VPs, as the American player has been doing this last, I would say, 15 minutes of the game. But the drain for the Wehrmacht player has been really slow. I mean, we went from 100 VPs to just about 80 in the course of those last minutes, and it's nowhere near a level that the Wehrmacht player would consider threatening for himself given his position on the field. One American 80 gun survived the focus fire of the Stugs previously and will be being brought back into the action. The stick is on the Stugs. There's even the Sherman advancing and the artillery firing. However, the pack is nearby. It is at veterans level 2 because of the veterancy, the shared veterans that he has with the Wehrmacht vehicles, and will probably finish off the American Sherman. And should that happen, that would be a very devastating loss for the American player. Rangers trying to take one of the Stugs, but once again the story of the frontal armor penetration holding true to what we know and not helping out the American player at all. Now there is a squad of Rangers advancing towards the position of the Ranger with some BARs to help them deal with them, and the American player tries to desperately kill that Stug, but the bazooka will be missing that shot. They will be having to retreat. Riflemen are suppressed. Once again, Puma's making life so difficult for the American forces in the east and not giving the American player the opportunity to get not even one victory point in his control. Now all 3 victory points are in the control of the Wehrmacht player. The tide seems to have turned with the loss of the Sherman, the inability of the Rangers to kill off the Stugs, and the off-map combat group that just now made its appearance in the field, being comprised by a single M8, an AT gun, a mortar, and a squad of riflemen. Not units that will have a significant impact on the field if you take out, if you exclude the AT gun that may be a little bit helpful. All the rest will just be something that the Wehrmacht player will eventually be able to deal with, since the only thing that he will have to do from this moment onwards is replenish some of his Stugs, keep his Pumas alive, and keep an eye on the victory points for good measure. American player once again being at pop cap, even having more than he can actually support, thereby being unable to reinforce his infantry squads. One of the reasons why the off-map combat group actually does not help you that much in many situations, and is can be actually detrimental to your, if you would say, resource situation, if you would include PopCap as a resource. Rifleman once again trying to take the northeast victory point. I do not see them having that much luck doing so. Puma and a Stug there to fend them off. And I suppose the Wehrmacht player, the only thing that he has to do right now is camp the VPs. Well, he has been doing it kind of for the last, I don't know, 20 minutes I would say. But he was in a pretty dire situation in the mid-game, so I guess props are due for him for sticking in there and doing everything he could in order to deal with that early strong American result. I could blame the fact that the American player is not in a better condition right now to his choice of an infantry doctrine, but you could say that the infantry company, was dictated by the Wehrmacht player going for defensive doctrine. However, defensive doctrine with tier 3 is something you don't see very often, and by taking the risk of doing so, the Wehrmacht player kind of nullified the fact of the American player having infantry as his company. It was risky, it took a while, and it presupposed that the Wehrmacht player had to survive as long as it was needed for him to get out the first Puma and the first Stug. So given the fact that it did happen, I would say he won the bet. Once again, rocket barrage came down in the position of some American forces a little bit earlier, caused some of them to reposition, some of them to take some losses. Infantry squads of the American player not even at full members because of the whole manpower situation. Another M10 met its demise in this portion of the map, and now there's even a Stug and a Puma taking on the American player's base.
Enemy unit down.
Mortar out there, American mortar hanging out by some hedges, not really being able to help the American player that much, and Rifleman retreating. It seems as if the American player has been in a desperate drive to find out how he could win this game, but all the indications we have here are saying that he won't be winning this game. It was good. It was a nice game. I liked the fact that the American player was so aggressive at the beginning. I like the fact that he kind of used the old school for riflemen, engineers with flamers, to take on the Wehrmacht position, in spite of the new trend of the mass engineers and cavalry riflemen. As you did see, it is still effective, but maybe it's not as effective as it would have been, because the Wehrmacht player still had the opportunity to get that tier 3 up and be able to slow down the advance of the American forces and stabilize. from that point onwards, I think in the mid game, the way I was, you know, spectating, American player could have changed focus from the west to the east much earlier, and by much earlier I mean before the count of the Wehrmacht Stugs reach that critical threshold that they are able to defend both locations at the same time. Yeah, when he had like 4 Stugs and they were both at the, protecting the west as well as the northeast VP. Since I believed if he focused in the east, he would have a much easier time setting up his AT guns, taking on the incoming Wehrmacht armor, and in general being able to hold down the territory against the Wehrmacht, rather than trying to push to the west so many times. In any case, the game is really closing in to its end. Wehrmacht player, on the other hand, if I were to say some words about him, he did hang in there by a thread in the beginning. For the fatherland, actually was much more, I think, was a choice. Actually, in defensive doctrine, was a choice of need rather than, you know, a strategy that he had in mind, because he was really pushed hard in the early game. But he did make it work. Even the rocket barrage that he had been using throughout the game, or the defensive artillery, or the subsequent use of the for the fatherland, were most of the times spot on and actually helped him climb back into a position that allowed him to actually come as far as here and win the game. The game now that is just, you know, Stugs taking down the American player's base and the 2 clan mates chatting about the game. Well, I will. I hope you enjoyed the game. I have been gone. I have been on and off for a while, and now I know, like, I'm appearing every 2 or 3 months doing a cast and then disappearing into the mist or something like that. I think I will be much more regular as far as my shoutcast duties are concerned in the future, and hope you enjoyed this game. I'll let you see the last runs of shells coming out of the Stugs and the MG fire of the American MG nest, and that is all. aSIISilentRain out.